I always like to start when everybody's breathing. I'm like, it's the Great Northern Sex Cast. Colleen Bertino, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good on this rainy day.
Oh, God, we're in the middle of it. Kelly guest here. Michael.
Hello.
Long time no show.
I know. Busy guy.
You've been busy, but I'm glad you're back. The triumphant return. And today I'm just going to mention, because we never know when somebody might get inspired to speak. In the room with us, we have who we're calling our civilian guest, Miss Kelly. Hello, Kelly.
Hello.
Glad you could be here. We're going to hit you up. Kelly is a millennial. These interesting creatures that are so written about for all things marketing and
all things marketing. So
and just sell them crap. But Kelly and I happened upon a couple of really interesting conversations regarding dating over the weekend, and so that is the prelude to a lot of the things that we talk about here. So I thought it might be fun.
Yeah, because in fact, the three of us don't date.
Nope.
So,
right? I know we've got
that.
one married person and two long-time committed people.
Yeah, there's no dating here.
Exactly. And isn't it a funny sign of the times that the one person in the room that is married is the person who's gay? I love that. I mean, that's a good thing. So welcome to
Yay, 2015.
Exactly.
you.
Welcome to the Great Northern Sex Cast, guys. Well, okay, now that we've introduced everybody, Colleen, there's no way around, we do current events here. I mean, granted, most of them are quite silly. You can't talk about the news without talking about the horrific, tragic events in Paris last weekend.
And Lebanon.
Lebanon, too, yeah.
And a lot of different places, and of course, the plane going down. And it does, when you're doing, for all intents and purposes, a silly show, you're like, okay, how do you deal with that?
Right.
And so I guess we've decided to, acknowledge that it sucks like crazy.
Yeah.
And our condolences to, all the families. And I, personally know someone that was in Paris and was hiding in a basement. So it hits a little close to home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're the folks I know are safe.
That's good.
So that was good, and they're back to work. So they're like, screw that shit.
Yeah.
We're going back to work.
For sure. And for those that there's been some stuff out there, and I'm not going to dwell on it, but who have tried to divert attention from Paris by saying that this was a white European tragedy. I think it's important to remember there were 11 different countries represented among the dead. And this was a world tragedy. This was not an Anglo tragedy by any stretch of the imagination. So blessings to all of the people in Paris. But, before we move off of that, one of the things we always do here on the show is we talk about, the store and what's going on, and we'll get to kind of that here in a minute. But, your parents started this business in 1979?
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of stuff has happened economically, socially, in the world, war-wise, and everything else. And I just want to get your perspective on how the business has fared and what happens in your business when that stuff happens.
We pretty much started in a downturn, and they've, from what my dad, told me. And we pretty much weathered everything good. I mean, this past, when everything crashed in 2008, that scared the shit out of a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I've said this before, we sell things that people want but not need. But I've noticed the biggest issues that we've had are either unemployment. When people are, worried about their paycheck or when gas gets over $3. Now, a gas at like $1.99 now, which I've seen, makes people have an extra $20-$40 in their pocket, and we tend to it tends to help our business. Unemployment, as low as it is, tends to help our business. But for the most part, world events have never really really changed. Change what's going on in the stores on a day-to-day basis, unless, of course, it's, oil prices.
See, that's really interesting because I was thinking about, all of this and, the really treacherous journey that we've been on with fighting this ideological war that really you could go back to God knows when it started really, but anybody can pick any number of flashpoints when it possibly did. But do you remember when the Gulf War occurred and they talked about that being the primetime war and people were getting pizza and coming home and watching Wolf Blitzer every night and oh God, I can't pick Bernie. I can't remember the African American reporter that was also so freaking good in that whole thing. That changed some buying habits and some like leisure time habits. And I just wondered if any of the unrest ever made people, I'm sorry, but hornier or more appreciative of that. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, that's when I first started. And we were, busy growing the business and doing stuff at the time. And, 89, 90, 91, 90, during that first time. All I really remember about the first Gulf War is we had, my friends got a really good deal on a cruise because no one was traveling.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And the fact that like I'm watching this on TV, it was pretty, but then we just went back to work. There didn't seem to be a lot of, and I think that's an issue for a non, sex oriented show, where people just don't really pay attention to the fact that there are men and women fighting.
Yeah. I think we've become more cognizant of that over the years, don't you all? I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's just always in the background.
For sure. Yeah. And the thanking of the service people has gotten more prevalent as well. The other big, not really happy news elephant that's in the room this week is Charlie Sheen.
Yeah. He went on the Today Show this morning, and I guess he's been being blackmailed for quite a number of years. And I'm just like, if what he says is true, that everyone that he's had sex with or relations with or exchanged bodily fluids with, however you want to say it, he's told, it's no one's damn business. And I mean, and I don't care whether he would have said he had hepatitis or whether he was doing Lewy body dementia or whether or not he had MS. It doesn't make, or Parkinson's. It's his own damn medical person. And it just pissed me off.
4 years he's been dealing with people.
And then, the shame. I mean, millions of dollars he's paid to people or whatever it is that, could go to his kids for Pete's sake.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's one of the things too, if this is the first time you've ever caught the Great Northern Sex Cast, one of the things that we do here is, of course, we occasionally bring vibrators in and put them up to the microphone and talk about the new stuff that's going on. We're not above it. We'll own that. But we do talk about sexual stigma, like on a regular basis. And that can be like with regard to something like HIV or, a GLBTQ issue, and that's one of the things it's kind of getting people over with. Asking you back history wise, and you might have been in college when this was all happening. I think you were. You had to have been. When I think the early to mid 80s was when the AIDS scare was just really just every day. And would you say, Michael, that was about the peak of it?
It was.
Yeah. And it was condoms everywhere. I mean, if you slapped a condom on something and put it in fantasy gifts, it sold. And it was like the funniest thing in the world to have a condom stuffed in a walnut or put a stick on it and a ribbon and call it a condom lollipop. Or, you just slapped a condom on it, people bought it.
That's funny.
And now nobody, now condoms are so ordinary that it doesn't make any difference. I mean, we still occasionally get people who think they're going to have some sort of funny condom novelty. We're like, one, it would have maybe been, funny 30 years ago.
Right.
But condoms they're just so ordinary.
Yeah.
That they're not funny anymore.
And so back at that time, did you notice any changes with regard to the business, or did your parents ever speak of it?
No. We just sold a lot more condoms.
Okay.
All right. We're down to what, maybe half a dozen standard condoms just because people expect them to be there. But at one point, we even took over an old condom store and changed it into sort of a mini fantasy gifts, and we probably carried 100 different types of condoms. And and just it's no big deal to buy condoms anymore, as far as I can tell.
No.
Up until about 10 years ago, I had some people in my life, and I was really good friends with this lady, and her husband was like the national guy for Lifestyles condoms, and they are extremely well-to-do as a result of condoms. I mean, seriously, he's the condom king, basically. And you know the line, right? You guys have seen him. And
we carry a few.
Yeah, and I have got to accompany them to some of the trade shows and whatever, and just they print money. They just freaking print. Even now, even though it's not as out in your face as it was, it was kind of one of those.
It just I mean they're just any place that doesn't have condoms. I went to the North Shore, and there's this tiny little mom and pop place. And on either side of the 4 boxes of cigarettes they had were 6 things of condoms.
Nice.
Because they just, it's in Lutzen. It's not like there's a Walgreens on a corner up there, so. But I'm pretty sure 30 years ago they did not have condoms right behind the counter.
probably not so much. And then it was still weird even going to buy them even at that time. I mean, now it's like whatever, throw them next to the Jujubes or whatever the hell else you're buying, and your Diet Pepsi, and we're off. So, Michael, you've got the pink book there.
I do. This is my fun little book of products that are going out and everything. So I got a few things in here, like my new Man Bound. It's very interesting.
My.
Yeah, it's a little bondage set for men. It's designed for men and everything. We have that at like 4 of our stores. But yeah.
No, it's from the Sport Sheets company, and they've marketed and designed some things that have slightly larger wrist and ankle cuffs,
And,
different colors, a little bit stronger. They're actually a family company. My brother and I met them. It's a brother-sister company eons ago, and we've been carrying their stuff for decades now. And they have cuffs and blindfolds and neck wrist cuffs and hog tie stuff and ball gags and under the bed restraints. They're the folks that came up with the first thing they did was a large sort of comfortable sheet that had removable Velcro pads. So you were tied down, but you could just reach your fingers out and peel up the edge. And so they were, very into, the sort of the safety aspect and the fact that you could be restrained, but get out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
the
so
Houdini
the sports,
factor.
That's why it's called Sport Sheets, because that was their first item. And they do a sort of what I call a vanilla line. In fact, they actually put it in like little ice cream containers.
Oh my God!
For so they could sell it at other places. They have quite a bit. So they've taken a lot of their basic items, and they've really expanded where they've been able to sell them because of that.
Well, we've got your big employee event that's coming up in December. It's a Sunday. Which day again?
December 13th.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to be there. Well, at the last one in June, the rep from Sport Sheets, and her name escapes me right now, and I can see her, and she's kind of this lovely, sultry gal. She sat down, and what was so funny is their brochures are about the most eyebrow raising of everybody's. But, when you sat down to talk to her, she was absolutely the lowest key of all of them. Our products are about bringing couples together. And I just thought it was so funny because it was like this juxtaposition of bondage and then this over here. It was just like so great. So we're going to do that. Is everybody going to talk to us again for the show?
I believe so. Yeah.
You're going to hang out with me, right?
Yeah, I will be in town this time.
Okay, good. Oh, it's super fun. And are they going to have the room like walls of dildos again?
Most likely we do every time. Nice. Yes, there will be a lot to choose from in there. Yeah. And we actually have a full breakdown of who we are having come to us.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh, who's coming?
We have XR Novelties. We have Tantus, which they do a lot of.
Tantus is, I should say, one of the first people that made medical grade silicone dildos.
Oh.
They used to be so small that they would pour them in a mold, break them out of the mold, put them in like a Ziploc baggie, and put a hand printed. Sort of construction paper header on it. Now they've got this beautiful line, and they've figured out how to make them shinier. But they were probably some of the pioneers in the silicone toy industry.
Not easy for you to say. And I'm just going to say for poor Kelly in the room, who I'm afraid, I hope we lock the door because I'm afraid she's going to try to escape. But it's really funny. At these events, this is like when the suppliers come in and all of the new products are there on display, and all of the Fantasy Gifts employees get sort of schooled up, if you will, on this whole thing. And I interview all the reps and we talk about them. But what's really cool is you get a swag bag, right? So I forgot mine. The first mishap that I had was I left it at the event. I forgot to take it with me. And then my pals here were able to bring it home. So we get home and I got this killer. And it was an expensive piece, too. It was like a, $50 or $60 silicone, very unusual shaped thing I've never seen. And we were going to try it. We had to go get batteries. And we left the house and we came back. And I've got a photo of this. The dogs ate the vibrator, like literally. There was pink stuff everywhere, and they pooped pink stuff for the next couple of days. But I have got to make sure that I am a better shepherd of my gear.
Yeah, I saw that picture.
It was hysterical. They stripped it bald. It was just. Yeah, so
you gotta keep track of your toys.
Yeah, you don't leave it on the. I don't know how they got it, but I digress. Well, I left it on the kitchen table.
Well, your toys, there's toys.
Right?
Right.
Brand new. It's like, no, that's mine. We have to have a special box. So who else besides Tantus?
We got Cal Exotics. They sell us a lot of good stuff there. Perfect Fit, and they make some really amazing cock rings. Perfect Fit's with cock rings and everything. It snaps off, so when you do finally ejaculate and everything, it's easy to get off. And unlike the metal cock rings, where you have to go somewhat flaccid before you can get that metal thing
Is
around.
it breakaway?
It is. It snaps in and then it ties in securely, and then when you're done and everything, it just snaps off. So it's like a snapping one, but it goes by little pegs.
Snapping cock ring. That sounds very ominous.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's really cool. I was just amazed when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, I got to get one of those because getting that sucker off after you're done, it's like that's worse. That's a chore.
Have there been any ceiling fan mishaps with the cock
Not
ring?
lately. No, I got rid of all ceiling fans.
Smart. You're too tall for that.
I am too tall.
Okay.
Doc Johnson, they do a lot of our dildos and everything.
Yeah, I mean, American company. They've been around forever. I think they were the same thing with California Exotic,
yeah.
and we get a lot of our vibrators. Dildos. I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, but these are some of our biggest suppliers.
So I know that Black Friday is not a big deal for you because, as you explained in a previous show, and it made perfect sense once you said it, that people don't like to shop when Grandma and Auntie Jane are in town, which for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
When does the Christmas stuff ramp up for you guys?
Well, it used to start around December 10th, but now Christmas is not a day or a weekend anymore. Christmas pretty much goes from about December 15th to about January 15th.
Okay.
Because so many people have blended families or chosen families, or you're going here, you're going there. It is a very long time period. And so we'll probably do our busiest time like a week before Christmas and then first week and a half into January.
Okay, so it's coming, but it's not there yet.
Yeah, which is why I was willing to have the seminar and as late, because normally I like to have it in November, but it just didn't work out. And they had a little bit later, and I said, no, I'll open the stores like an hour late, maybe an hour and a half late, but I'm not opening 3 hours late.
Right.
So we had to adjust a little bit. But many of these companies have been here before. But, I have new employees. And so it's not like they've, heard some of this before. And it's also important, and they, show stuff that we may not have in the stores, but is always available online.
Yeah.
And so they need to know, what is out there and what's going on.
Well, it'll be fun because, you were out of town the last time this happened, but you and I can go and sit and interview everybody. And what I love, you never know what you're going to get from these guys because they travel the country with their sample cases of sex toys. So you're always going to get a new great story about airline security. You're going to find out what trends are, so it'll be good to kind of hear what's going on, with that. And anybody new that we haven't seen before?
Oxballs.
I don't think Oxballs has been there.
Oxballs. They make cock rings.
Oh,
and
okay.
like ball stretchers and all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Is that a BDSM kind of thing?
No, more of just penis jewelry.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Or testicle jewelry.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Without having to be
pulls the
pierced?
balls. Yeah,
Yeah.
without being pierced. You stretch the balls
Is it like
out.
to get their good side? Or, what's the point of pulling balls? I don't get it. I don't get it.
It's just fetishes for guys,
Yeah. It's
everybody likes to yank on it a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kelly.
Okay.
Did she warn you about us?
Yes, I
did.
And Screaming I was going to be there, and
The Rabbit
Evolve.
Company.
The Rabbit Company, my fave.
They're exciting.
We
are
have
such nice
done
people.
quite well with that line.
And this is the new one, right?
Yeah,
It just
this
came
is
out
what.
this
Yeah,
year.
and in fact, we have got a couple companies have really that were known in the luxury line have just, in my opinion, priced themselves out of what I consider the Midwest market.
Okay.
And so I've removed a couple things. We're going to be going with WeVibe, and we're going to be going with the Rabbit Company. Jopin, which is a company that has really improved their product. We're going to be bringing in more of that and focusing less on some of the other companies that, and I have to admit, a lot of these folks might do a lot of advertising in Cosmo, but I don't like paying for advertising.
Yeah.
I would rather have an item in the store that worked really well and was a reasonable price, even though it might not have the fanciest name.
For sure. And speaking of that, Colleen, are you doing, like right now, is this pretty heavy season for you to do a lot of advertising on terrestrial radio right now? Is that amping up for you?
You know what? I haven't done that in years. It's like I was hitting the same folks on the head over and over again. And, we've got the podcast here. I've got some print stuff. Actually working with trying to figure out the Yelp a little bit better because people they're trying to figure out where you are, and so I need a little help with that because there's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another. I mean, if you talk about the Yelp sites and the Facebook site and Google Plus and FetLife and Pinterest. The social media sites, to some extent, take up so much time and energy.
Yeah.
And so many folks are going to the social media sites to find out what's going on that we're focusing a little bit more on that and on this podcast and some other things. That just makes more sense than it does to just, hey, this is Colleen for Fantasy Gifts, and we've got in new lingerie for Christmas. I'm like, okay, we've, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing. I mean, there's even the local papers are mostly at bars and restaurants now. There's very little retail in a local paper for a print ad. I still work with the Lavender because they were some of the first people that would accept our ads and do some things, and so I do feel a lot of loyalty to that paper, and it's a lot of fun to support that organization, but not too much. I mean, certainly years ago we did the Reader when it existed, and the City Pages, and the Skyway News, and like I said, it's pretty much bars and restaurants now.
Interesting.
And there's just not a lot going on. Did some TV years ago, but it's so broken up now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know. What to do if anyone's even watching broadcast TV. I don't worry about it. I mean, it is one of the things about being in business for 35 years is that, there are still some folks that don't know what we do. But I was at a doctor's appointment for allergies the other day, and nurse who's, doing all the jabbing into my arm is like, well, what do you do in Fantasy Gifts? I'm like, I love Fantasy Gifts. I'm just blah, 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 blah. And, suddenly I know more about her than I probably should. But,
That's kind of an occupational hazard.
Yes,
it was also really nice. She felt comfortable enough to talk about that to the, stuff like that. And I did steer the conversation sort of away and different. I know how to do that after this many years.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, she knows what's going on. So I definitely hear more as the years go by, obviously. So, I love that store. Is that the store over here? Something like that versus what's that?
Yeah.
Not that doesn't exist. Because if you just don't travel or you haven't been there or something like that, you just you don't go past one. Doesn't mean you see and I'm sure there's plenty of businesses out there I have no idea exist in the Twin Cities.
Yeah, but here the one beautiful thing about you guys is that if you're looking for anything that you might carry, you guys are darn easy to find if you're using any of the devices that most of us have strapped to ourselves 24/7. So that's a good thing. So, well, I can't stand it. What the heck, Colleen? You've been on not so good of a roll lately. What the heck is on your hand?
I have a brace on my
What'd you do?
right hand. It is commonly known as tennis elbow.
Oh.
Now, mind you, I have not played tennis since I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Because in the 70s, everyone was building courts, and then the neighbor built a court, then they brought someone in, and all the parents made their kids go stand out in the sun of the racket. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Running back and forth in the sun? No, I don't do this shit. But I think I screwed up the tendon. Picking up a bag of change that was when I was at the bank.
Oh, okay. So this was officially recognized then as a coin injury.
Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure. The problem is that it doesn't seem to be stopping. So it looks like physical therapy for the next couple of months. So we'll see what's going on.
Wrong.
And that's right before we're getting in the Christmas stock. It starts arriving this Friday and Monday.
Crap load of stuff.
Pallets and pallets and pallets of stuff.
And civilian.
And I can't. They're going to have to lift it up, put it on the table, unpack it for me, and then I'll be able to price it. I'm going to feel like it's going to drive me insane.
Oh my God. And Civilian Cal, if you could see this warehouse, it is the most entertaining tour you will ever take. I am telling you right now. And especially when they get like all the stuff and they're just, and it just keeps going by and it's hilarious. I mean, so these guys know. Yes.
Yeah. All the show that Terry went through, all the stuff is arriving. Yeah, we're going to be going crazy. I think the first thing is because we're is like 3 different lube companies, so the boxes are going to be small and really freaking heavy.
Okay.
And there's going to be thousands of items.
And that's my part. I have to bring all those small, freaking heavy boxes out to find stores.
We do try and pack them small. Yeah.
Lube and dildos are the hardest thing to move around, especially if you get a couple dongs in there, a couple of 8 inches and stuff. That stuff adds some weight.
It weighs a lot.
I go to a chiropractor every month.
And if you're not paying attention and you grab one, I said no, really, because do not injure yourself, because I don't have any idea how. I'm sure that there's a medical code out there for a hit by box of dildos, but I don't want to know what it is.
No, and you do not want to find out from
no, I don't
experience.
even. Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
So I lift with my legs.
Bend at the knees there means something entirely
totally
different.
different.
Yes.
Right.
So guys, let's do that. Let's hit some news. We hit some of the big, really serious news earlier, but and some of what we have in here is a little bit serious this week. But although I did find some really preposterous crap, so we'll get to that too. We'll pepper it in. Chirac is a new Spike Lee movie that's coming out. Have you guys heard of it?
I looked it up this morning.
Yeah.
I was going through there, and I saw that it's Nick Cannon is one of the leads for the folks that would probably know most of the names.
Yep.
But it's a takeoff, and I don't know if I'm going to be pronouncing this right, but it's a modern version of an ancient Aristophanes Greek tragedy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is so cool, because I'm like, is that the one where it is the one where the women refuse sex until the guys get their shit together and stop having a war? So the timing on this is pretty fascinating.
Well, it is, and there was recently on Chicago-based local television a mother who's had it. Her name is April Lawson, and she said, "I'm going to read this." She said, "You're watching guys just running around, like hanging out in front of shoe stores and buying shoes and carrying on like life is normal." And she said, "Our kids and everybody is getting killed in the seats." So she literally, or streets, and she said she went to television and said, "Black females in our community, I challenge you all to refuse to have sex until they stop the violence, and really boycott sex." When I first read the headline, sex to prevent, denying sex to prevent gun violence, I'm like, okay, this is preposterous. And I thought it was going to be like a hooker or something. But no, I mean, this is a mom who's very, very serious about promoting this. And as a result of this movie and all the, the Spike Lee, what he brings, they're like going, Isn't that interesting?
Actually, yeah, I mean, this was it written 411 BC or something? I looked up the original stuff. And
of course you did.
It's not, it's fascinating that the idea, that thousands of years later, that this idea keeps coming up. That if you're not gonna listen to reason, we'll come up with a reason for you to listen. Because generally, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't women in government, but it is very few, and it tends to be old dudes sending young dudes and other folks to go fight.
Right,
and it has been for centuries. I mean, this is nothing new. It's,
Oh, absolutely not.
And I just said, well, this looks interesting. And it's Spike Lee, so they're not going to pull any punches.
Yep, no more blowjobs. You see how much action you get right there. Mm-hmm. This next one absolutely slayed me, and all you can eat gone terribly wrong, which here could mean, virtually anything.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, where's she going with that?
It's a Denny's. It's a Denny's pancake thing, but it's so funny. Okay, so this chick goes in. This is Illinois again. Nothing from Florida this week, surprisingly, because usually most of the weird shit really happens in Florida, especially naked things. But anyway, this is Oaklawn, Illinois. 27-year-old Natasha West, authorities say, flipped out because the waitress told her she couldn't share her $4 all-you-can-eat flapjacks with the entire rest of the table. She became violent and started swearing and swinging her fists along with pancakes at the server. None of the blows did, in fact, land on said server, according to police, but they were shuffled out. West taken in handcuffs. One of the people in her party did pay the tab, which I thought was, mighty nice.
Because this could have just simply been an elaborate ruse to get out of a $4,
No,
bill.
somebody actually
Okay.
stepped up and paid it. I don't know. Unclear if there was a tip and if it was any good. But she was booked and released. So she's not languishing in jail over this. But really, I'm just saying.
Someone doesn't understand. Someone's never worked a restaurant job, I'll tell you that.
Oh, my God. I mean.
But I do have a Florida story for you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Couple they're divorced and they get back together and they decide to go to their storage unit. And while they're at the storage unit, they decide, the woman gets undressed and decides that she wants to have sex.
Yep.
But then she decides she doesn't like how they're going to have sex.
Okay.
And so she starts beating up the guy while nude in the car of the storage unit area. Because, there's, to me, nothing says hot like going to the storage unit.
Right.
And then we find out that this woman, the reason, she's had arrest for spousal battery before. And I'm like, well, no wonder they were divorced. So I'm thinking maybe this reconciliation, now mind you, this happened, Lord, is not going to go too far. Yeah, but I'm saying, because once again, you've got a communication issue here. Because if you don't like how the person
there's a little
wants
more
to have,
than that, but okay.
Yeah, but if the person doesn't like the way that you want to have sex, maybe you should talk about it instead of just going for the violence.
And grabbing the spare broom
Or whatever it is that you're at
You know?
the storage unit. And I'm just, I'm obviously this woman has severe violent issues and all that sort of stuff. But I just can't imagine what about a storage unit would say, right now, I need it now.
I've got 5 storage units currently because we've crammed ourselves into the tiny house. Nothing makes me hot about any of them.
No, storage units are not, not sex-inducing, spaces. Okay, because I'm like, oh,
Well, it's not
You're
even.
not wrong.
Yeah.
No.
It's not-
I mean,
you couldn't even do it in public because there's a storage unit, so nobody's going to actually see you. So the thrill of doing it in public is not even there. So what is the?
There's boxes.
There's boxes of storage.
I don't know, but I'm like, yeah, and it was Florida.
Okay. Well,
She
of
was
course it
arrested in Florida.
We go now to Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to Philly?
Yes. I was flying to Philly. It's right near my dad's hometown.
Okay.
So seen the Liberty Bell and Constitution Hall and stuffed my face with cheesesteaks until I exploded. Yes.
They're funny people. I mean, I really enjoyed my trips there. I mean, they're kind of a bit of a hard-boiled culture in some ways, but not without a sense of humor or warmth. But they're just kind of, East Coast kind of edgy. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they've got some seriously peculiar circus juju. They've had 2 incidents recently. The most recent and most amusing, in my opinion, was the 2 escaped zebras that got loose and were running amok on Philadelphia streets.
Did
you see the video?
I have not seen the video. I was driving on a trip I took eons ago to Hawaii. I was driving along, and suddenly I went, "Is that a zebra?" So I pulled over and I back to turn around, and there was in fact a zebra. And I'm thinking, obviously, someone has some wild animals, exotic animals. And then when I went back with my this past summer, we're driving, and I'm like, I think right around here is where I saw the zebra. And then we didn't see it, but on the way back, there was a zebra and this really weird looking yak thing. So. And I'm like, good. So now I know that I wasn't insane that I saw a zebra in Hawaii. But I'm assuming that if you're in Philly and you're downtown, it's even less likely that you're going to turn to your right and go, is that a pair of zebras?
Yeah.
They got loose from a circus, went running the street through the streets of West Philly before being recaptured, and one of the Philly cops cracked. Well, at least they're already wearing stripes, so we don't have to, lock him up. But by the way, Colleen, I have never once in my entire life ever had to whip my head around and say, "Oh my God, is that a zebra?" It hasn't happened to me.
No.
I hope someday it does, but it hasn't yet. I'm just saying.
I did see a little bit of that. And I just went, I know what they're feeling because I have driven down this road on the Big Island of Hawaii. I went, is that?
No,
what?
what?
It's just not where you're definitely expecting to see. Yeah.
I don't expect to see them
No.
most times, quite honestly.
No.
But the other thing, though, weirdly, last month, in another circus-related incident in Philadelphia, there was something really frightening that happened. It was an acrobatic artist fell off of the apparatus that he was swinging from, did in fact bounce off of the safety net, but then again flung into the crowd. And luckily, nobody was, seriously hurt. It was a bump and bruise kind of situation. But can you imagine a dude in tights coming flying at you at what must have been an impressive amount of speed and force?
Damn.
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad damn for you?
What's he wearing?
Yeah, exactly. Tights. I told you.
No, that would, obviously if something went very wrong there, but I'm sure this is not the first time that it was flying through the air. Yeah. But, I think I would much rather look over and say, hey, is that a zebra? Than have the acrobat land
Package
in my
right
lap.
in your ear. Yeah, that would be bad.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
Speak for yourself. So I'm a little sorry. I mean, this one goes out to Miss Megan, our fabulous. She does everything at Fantasy Gifts, but not the least of which is she manages the Great Northern Sex Cast Facebook page, which is a great page. It's a fun page. Great. The news feed is fantastic. It mirrors what we talk about on the show and all of that. But she would, I think, get a huge kick out of this, and so would our Comic-Con and all of our costume-loving friends here. Star Wars Shrine in England. This dude, British guy, his name's Dave Oldbury. He has spent over $225,000 on Star Wars memorabilia over the years. And
But did he make a dildo Darth Vader?
No.
No. Okay.
No, it takes a porn star to do that.
Okay.
Plus a couple of really talented artists. But no, this guy has more than 500 figurines, posters, books, life-size stormtroopers, and all of this kind of stuff. And his home is in Southampton, Hampshire. And what he's done is he's put on homestay.com, it's like an Airbnb kind of thing, the Solo Suite. And in celebration of the British opening of the Star Wars movie, he's offering it to you to stay the night for approximately $50. And it's pretty funny. It's just
Wait a minute. Only $50?
Yeah. And I mean,
more people would pay more than $50 to go have sex in that room because that's why that room exists. Yeah.
I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, at
Unless
least
you're Han
$100.
Solo.
I'm gonna smack
You went there.
but you were
You
on.
went there.
But you were on my right side, which is the bad arm.
bad
So
arm. You did that on purpose.
So sometime later on, I will be smacking you.
I'll
Yeah.
remember what it's for.
Yeah, like this is for that's for that.
Sorry, I had to go there.
That's fine. I'm glad you did.
No, I actually do appreciate a really good bad pun.
Me too.
I have no problems
good
with
at
that
bad puns.
whatsoever.
Oh my God, you and my brother would be like best friends. But I just have to read you a little bit before we close this one out from the description of the suite, which amused me greatly. This is described as being in a neighborhood under the control of the Empire and is protected by an energy shield that is able to withstand bombardment. House rules include not using lightsabers indoors, nor going down a side path, which leads to the dark side. I mean, come on.
Do
What
they have
Star Wars
cookies?
geek wouldn't love this?
No.
Yeah, there's a Wookiee in there. But I'd be afraid of my figurines getting stolen if I were, in fact, into those. So one last note before we go into our guest segment here with our civilian guest, Ms. Kelly. This was something that, we had this kind of in Minnesota remember the Mall of America sex ring with the young girls from Edina that were selling themselves for shopping money? Remember that a few years back?
Vaguely.
That one-
Yeah, it was really awful and horrible, and I'm not trying to freak people out, but there is a national news story breaking about the proliferation of sex trafficking in the Sioux Falls area of specifically South Dakota. And federal authorities are moving in on this. And they said before 2010, they rarely had these cases. I mean, it was as unheard of as you would think it would be in a place like South Dakota. But they said that because people have moved in thinking that they wouldn't be watched or
I
noticed.
mean, it's opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean, because they don't have a task force. They don't have the law enforcement, people that are looking for it. They don't even have, so it just, they fly under the radar until they don't.
Right, and so they've made a shift in their enforcement from focusing on prostitutes and johns to women who are, and mostly women. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't any men that have been trafficked. But check out these numbers, you guys. I thought it was a little bit chilling. By the Associated Press's count, the feds have gone after about 50 cases there, which is pretty astounding. And they've gotten life sentences on 3 occasions. Prosecutions have involved would-be customers. This one makes me sick. A Texas air traffic controller got 15 years for responding to an ad for sex with a 12-year-old at Sturgis. And then high-profile trafficker Mohammed Sharif Alaboudi, one bad dude. So, just something to be aware about. I mean, aware of, I should say, especially people with kids.
Yeah, they probably moved, down from North Dakota because that, with the amount of folks going on, amount of folks that are up there for the all the oil. There's been a lot of boomtown, a lot of issues, and then they realize, okay, we're all up here, and our eyeballs are on us, so where else are going to go? So, I could see it certainly moving to other areas in the Midwest that are not paying attention to what's going on. And with places like, just with the online stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely, and there's some wonderful things about the internet, and this just happens to be one of the very not wonderful things.
Right. And, we're all about happy, consensual, communicative sex around here. But it's like, I feel remiss if we don't kind of come across and express an opinion on some of the stuff that we see. So speaking of opinions, well, not really opinions. This was more of an education that I got this past weekend in talking to the other Miss Kelly here in the room.
So Lefsa brings up dating conversation?
Apparently so.
Okay, I'm just...
Wine and Lefsa?
Wine.
Yeah,
Okay,
wine.
wine. Okay. See,
Yeah.
See, because I got the German and the Italian heritage, so Lefsa's not,
Not your-
no. I mean, I eat it, I enjoy it, but but the actual making of it, no, that is not a skill set that I possess.
And Kelly's got the Scandinavian side. I'm a pure hanger-on to this whole process, but I've been there. I'm a veteran, and we got into a discussion about dating. And Kelly, I thought it was really interesting, and this is one of the things that I wanted to bring up with you. You are I would refer to you as a professional. You're in the service industry. You work at a high-end steakhouse, and you are busy, and you work at night. And we were talking about dating, and I said, well, so have you done the Match.coms? And just kind of tell me how you answered that, because you blew my mind.
Oh, I said, yes, I've done the Match.com, and I met some crazies, which you would think you wouldn't, because there's so much more detail involved there than you would find, say, on like a Tinder app. Tinder, I found, it's pretty straightforward. If the guy's taking a picture with his shirt off in the mirror, you kind of know what they're going for. But a lot of them, I run into friends from high school on there. A lot of them are just trying to do what I'm doing, is cultivate a new way to meet people, because it's with the new changing of social media, it is harder to meet people organically.
Yeah.
Meeting people out, and at a certain age, you quit going to the bars and out, and you don't run into people that way. And at this point in my career, I guess I should say, I've already met everybody I'm going to work with, and I've met all the friends of my friends. So it is hard at this age to try to find new people to connect with.
Yeah, I work with my family, so you're really not meeting folks there.
Yeah.
And then I remember so my friends have all met people now, and we're no longer going out.
Right.
And
I
this stuff
met my husband, so
and this
I'm
stuff,
done.
so this stuff didn't exist for me. And I'm like, okay.
Right.
Well, and Michael and his husband met at work, and they still work together, which, we all know that's kind of miraculous that A, happened, and B, that it works as harmoniously as it does.
It does. For some reason, we can work together and live together and still get along.
Which is awesome. So if it's okay, I build you as a millennial, Kelly. Is it okay if I say that you are 30?
Yes.
Well, I already did.
Well,
so
I mean,
too
there
bad.
it is.
I could have edited it out, but so you're 30. But when you said Tinder, and I want to pull the table here because I know what I thought of it. Didn't you guys think that was more of a hookup site than
I thought
anything,
so.
Colleen?
Yeah, I just figured it was there. Like, okay, I want to get some now, and
Does
I
this
don't,
tell
and I
you
and
where
I
they
don't feel,
are?
and I don't feel like,
Yeah.
going to the, I don't feel like going to the bar and going, you.
Well, I see this guy's like down the block. I'm gonna hook up with him real quick. That's all I thought it was. It shows them where their location is and everything.
Think about it, it's not far off from when you're out at a bar and you go up to somebody and say, hey, can I buy you a drink? It's just a different way of communication and getting to know somebody. You can pretty much get a read on them as to what they're there for pretty immediately. But
Well, do you feel like in just the time that it's been out there that Tinder has, so to speak, matured in any way? Like it's gone away from what a lot of us assumed, we old people, it was to what you're talking about now?
no, I think it's still there for what it's there for. I mean, I think a lot of people do use it as a hookup site, and that's where it can be kind of confusing. But I do think there are people on there that are just looking, especially guys, they're looking to find a connection online without doing Match. They don't want to admit to having to pay to meet a girl, and they're just, oh, well, this is still cool. This is a cool way to try to like meet new people instead of, some of them still carry the stigma of like Match or eHarmony, and they don't want to resort to that, so to speak.
Well, okay, so you guys, you didn't meet him. You guys didn't do Match, right? Neither of you two, Michael or Colleen?
No.
Okay, so that's how I met my boyfriend, and we're 6 years in at this point. So admittedly, I'm like antiquated when it comes to this. At the time, I kind of knew, what the deal was. But so many things have gotten so much smaller and more rapid, Kelly, like with regard to how you text. Like we used to write letters and sign them and, whatever. Now we go, all these abbreviations or whatever. Is it laziness, not wanting to take the time?
I think it's just our culture, as a millennial, is used to instant gratification.
I don't know what to. I kind of don't know what to. There's so many questions.
No, it is fascinating watching my daughter. I mean, if she has to wait more than a nanosecond for something, it's forever. And I'm pretty sure it is just going to continue. So sometimes I'm like, sometimes you have to wait for shit, and you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yes.
And it's fascinating because I know quite a number of couples that met through either eHarmony, Match, OkCupid, that have been very happily married for quite a number of years because they did the same thing. I mean, they're like, okay, I've met all the friends, and I haven't met anyone at work. We didn't meet in college, so now what?
Right.
And it used to be, the personals and the city pages, and then it just moved to the online, dating.
Yeah.
Although I do think that they should require divorce papers because the amount of I've got a few friends that have run across so many folks that are not divorced yet, or separated, and I'm like, really, there should be you should post your freaking divorce decree.
I have run into a few that have said open marriage on there. That are just.
Does the
That's
wife
what they're
know
there
this?
for. Who knows? Who knows? But at least they're posting it, so if you're getting involved, you know what you're getting involved.
At least you know they're married, and
you know more clearly what
the
they're
spouse
looking
may
for.
not know, but at least you know, and you
Right.
can decide whether you're comfortable with that or not.
But do you think that there's any kind of a full circle thing with? I'm asking you to speak for your generation, so no pressure really. But do you think that after a certain point, it's like, okay, if you don't really, you use the Tinder for a while and you meet some people and things like that, but that if that doesn't pan out for you, that you might be willing to go back and spend the time on a more detailed site, because if you really are looking for a long-term committed, possibly marriage type of a relationship, is it not? And I'm asking for you to speak again for others, not specifically necessarily just yourself. But isn't it worth investing a little more time?
Oh, absolutely. I think depending on what it is you're looking for at the time, if you are, I don't know, for me, I like to kind of date more casually without the seriousness of it going into it, because then there isn't a whole lot of pressure to see where it goes. Because if you go into it really seriously minded, you tend to focus on, is this person going to be my husband on your second date,
right.
and I think that kind of offsets it a little bit. But
Yeah.
I suppose after you've done a lot of the shorthand dating, so to speak, and you just, okay, I'm ready for something more serious. If you're in a place or like on a website like Match where both parties are looking for something serious at the same time, I think that's a more appropriate venue to look for.
And it's not that we don't know people who haven't met in bars. It's the
Right.
same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then have very long marriages
Right.
Sure.
or long relationships. I mean,
Yeah.
that's certainly. So it's just more tools. That's all it, we're going
And
through there.
gadgets.
Yes.
And you guys happen to be in the gadget business. So
Yes,
that helps
we
too.
it is fascinating. So when you're in between Tinder, you can wander over to fantasy gifts. If you're just too tired to swipe to the right or the left, whatever which one it is.
Well, yeah, the other thing I wanted to ask, because it's not like we don't have our own millennial access. We've got Megan, of course, but Megan is not a civilian. She's jaded like we are, because she's in the and so it's kind of fun to ask somebody in this age crew. One of the things that we talk about all the time, and in fact, last week we had a really great blogger. She was so wise beyond her years, wasn't she? Bree Lopez Donovan.
Yeah, it was a lovely conversation.
She's a great gal. She's going to come back. She's 24 for love, but she's married to a woman, and she identifies as queer. And I have to tell you, I have had more than one subsequent conversations of people coming up to me saying, "I thought queer was bad. I thought we weren't supposed to say that." And these are hetero people that are, and they're like, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, "Well, it depends." And I said, you got to be careful, and all this. It's very confusing. But to you, Kelly, the millennial, we're calling you. You've grown up at a time where this stuff has been more out there than it was when we grew up. So what's the attitude toward all the things that have become more prominent in the news and less mystified lately?
I think it's what's the big deal?
Yeah, like you look at the news story and go, really? This is an issue?
Right? Yeah. I mean, you just because, like you said, grew up just with a different mindset. Just kind of open, more accepting, more kind of exposed in a lot of ways to it. So nothing's that shocking anymore. So it just kind of is more accepted. So yeah, you kind of go, why are we spending this much time in our news cycle on something that, or like the gay marriage? Like, I just thought that was impossibly ridiculous to me. Like, why that was such a big deal.
Yeah, I mean,
I just couldn't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I said, oh, Michael and Eric are getting married. And my daughter was like, yeah. Right. She's like, why is this? Why do I mean? She didn't care about it, just like she wouldn't care about it if I told anyone was getting married. Right. It was exactly the same disinterest to some extent.
In fact, it's almost more surprising you have chosen not to be married.
Yeah, and it just never happened.
But you're in a
but it never occurred.
Long relationship.
Yeah, but it never occurred to me, when I was growing up that I wouldn't be. But it also was one of those things where and generally it's women, will live their life in boxes. They won't buy a home because what if they meet someone, or they won't go out and buy themselves dishes because what if they meet someone and register? If I wanted something, I just went and got it.
She's a very independent woman.
But it never occurred to me.
Which can be intimidating.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Especially at my age.
Scares the shit out of people, let me tell you. I've been called scary. And it's just, so I'm like, so I just figured I was a trendsetter. Always have it, that was all there was, all there was to it. Yeah.
She's a strong woman. She don't need a man to define her. She can have her children without a man. She can have her house without a man.
Although it was a hell of a lot of extra work to adopt as a single mom. I had to take extra, although I now have scientific proof that I'm absolutely ordinary because I had to take this big psychological test. And generally it comes out, when you're forced to take this test a lot for some countries, generally you come out defensive because you're pissed that you have to do all this stuff when every teenager is squeezing out a kid you can't, because it's generally, these are the folks that are generally fertile. But since this was my choice, and I'm going through there and they're like, well, actually, you didn't spike anywhere. And I said, can I get a copy of that? Because I'm going to prove to my family. See, look, I'm the normal one. It was truly fascinating that I am insanely ordinary.
Do you remember any of the questions that they asked you?
Oh, it was the the multiple personality phase. It's a lot of people have taken it to do it for jobs, stuff like that. Oh. I was completely and utterly boring on it. It was because it took me about a nanosecond to realize it was about 10 questions asked 27 different ways. Okay. It's like, it took me like 45 minutes to take it. And I'm like, whatever. I mean, they want me to go pee in a cup. I'll go pee in a cup for someone, for another test. I mean, whatever it was, I'll jump through. Yeah, might have been. Yeah. Minnesota multiple phasic personality thing. I don't know what the hell it was, but it was just fascinating. So I am insanely ordinary.
Who knew? Well, one thing that I want to wrap up with today, and I did not throw you a heads up, Kelly, so I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm going to anyway. I would just like in your opinion, to say, what would you, because we talk about sex here and all things related to it, what would you say is the biggest sexual issue or challenge for people in your peer group right now, if there is one?
Expectations.
Okay.
I just think everybody going into it has a off-balance set of expectations. I think women tend to want a fairy tale, the emotional connection, and men want a porno. And to try to find the connection between two people to get to the point where you're on the same page is the only time when you're going to have good sex, I think.
Actually, it doesn't sound too much different.
No.
Yeah, no, that the expectations are still there. The roles have not really changed all that much when you're going into something.
Yeah,
I was going through there, except now. Maybe there's a little might be a tad easier to talk about it, because of the information and stuff that's out there, and the fact that you need to have the discussion about 30 years ago you were or actually before the AIDS scare of the 80s, you never talked about sexually transmitted diseases, and I'm hoping that's part of the conversation now, and I'm hoping that birth control is more of a part of the conversation now before you get in there, or it's just assume that somebody's going to have a condom. It's not like you're, racing out to get them.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the actual mindset. I mean, that the emotions are the same. Maybe hopefully the mechanics are a little more open.
I think a lot of people are more open about being honest about those things. I think because it's no longer such a taboo, that it is kind of common sense. It is more commonplace to take those precautions and ask those questions and. Without it being scary or afraid you're going to scare someone off. I think it's just kind of more like, oh, I appreciate you asking. I'm asking you the same question, and kind of go back and forth, and then you're.
Do you think that it's easier? And I mean, I'm asking the table this really, that the communication, not just about the very critical things that you just mentioned, Kelly, but things like pleasure communication and the other stuff. Do you think that this generation is better at this than maybe we were, and most assuredly our parents? Anyone?
I think so.
Just
because it is so much more inundated in media and movies, and it's just talked about more. I mean, even 10 years ago, I wouldn't imagine hearing a show like this, and it being just normal talk without giggling or being shy about anything. And now I just think that is much more common, even with me amongst my girlfriends, the way it's kind of evolved over the years and how much more open and accepted it is to talk about anything and everything.
Very cool.
Yeah, there isn't too much, my friends and I, haven't talked about. And, and it evolves as we get older, go through different stages. But I've always had a very open set of girlfriends. And sometimes they'll say, they'll be with other, and then there's other sets of friends where you're just like, I'm not talking about this particular group of friends, but it is fascinating that someone would be willing to talk to a group of friends or someone about I don't really like oral sex, or or it's going through there, or when I'm going through it just or that
there's dissent in the room,
or I don't, or it's it's fascinating that that you'll talk about a condom use, or the fact that a friend will bring a friend into the store and say, get this, I like this vibrator, and that it's just. Like I said, people used to come to the store, grab the item, put it face down on the counter, and want to get out. Excuse me. And now there's just this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And I know that conversation, happens not in the store, that it's happening with friend groups too.
Well, and once somebody feels similar way that you do, then it opens up a line of dialogue that you feel much more comfortable, and you can explore it more and be more open about it.
Absolutely. Well, guys, we are out of time. What fun. It was kind of fun to have a civilian in the room. Don't
I
you think?
liked it, yeah.
I thought it was fun, and we've got to keep doing this. And so I'm going to put this out here to our Great Northern Sex Cast group. Listening group, if you would like to be the civilian in the room, or if you have a proclivity you'd like to bring, you're welcome to do that as well. But go ahead and hit us up through Facebook at the Great Northern Sex Cast. So Michael Radke and Colleen Bertino and our civilian Miss Kelly, thank you for a great job today. We'll be back next week with Rice and Beans, the Thanksgiving week show.
We're not live next week.
Nope.
We do have, because it is Thanksgiving week, and so I'll probably be busy getting ready because I cook. If I don't cook, there is no turkey. So
Okay.
that's all there's to it. But we do have a Rice and Beans, which is the married photographer couple that's also in the lifestyle swinging. And they're just amazing to talk to. And it was really nice to be able to hear them. It's a really, really fun conversation we had. I'm very excited that everyone else gets to hear it now, too.
Okay, so next week, watch for that, and we'll see you soon.